So, like I said, there's a very heavy metropolitan influence. So you have a lot of the French food, like the baguettes and the patisseries and stuff like that, as well as like some of the more popular like French dishes, like beef bourguignon and stuff like that. But you mostly get those in restaurants and things like that. The local food is definitely a lot more Creole. One of my very favorite dishes that you can only get on Guadaloupe was boquetes. And boquetes, oh my gosh, they're amazing. It's like you take this deep fried scone type bread, and it's its own special recipe. And you basically like cut into that and stuff it full of like hamburger meat, steak, ham, whatever you're craving. And then like fried egg on top of that. Like sliced up hot dog, bacon if you want it, and then like lettuce, tomato, and ketchup, and their special sauce, their pima, pepper sauce. And it's just so good. It's like a heart attack on a bun, but it's so, so good. Delicious. And you can only get it on Guadaloupe. But yeah, as far as like other foods, one of the most popular dishes that we had, like it was actually kind of a guest dish. So the members would serve it to us a lot when they had us over to teach a lesson or things like that, was chicken colombo. And that's kind of a curry chicken dish served over rice. Very, very good, like very tender. Kind of like it's. I wouldn't exactly call it Caribbean. It's like I would almost say it's like Indian influence. Which if you go to Guyana, there's like a lot of Hindu people there, so maybe that's where it comes from. But yeah, that was a popular guest dish that we would be served when we went to members' houses. Since they are French, they try to have a little bit of salad with every meal. So, and that could be anything from like, vegetables and tomatoes to like peppers, whatever they have handy. Bread is a very important part of the culture. Like the boulangeries are open every day. And so you could go get a baguette for very cheap and have it with a meal, or make a meal of it if you want. Some of the pastries were different because like they have a lot of different fruits on the islands. So like some of the pastries would be like fruit tarts with guava jelly or mango jelly versus what you would normally have like raspberry or strawberry if you were in Metropole. They also had a lot of local juices and everything, so that was always one of my favorite parts of going to the market, is you could just get like guava juice or passion fruit juice. You could get fruit like just walking down the street. There were fruit trees everywhere, so that was awesome. But yeah, that's pretty standard for what the food was. Lots of chicken, lots of they even had like a lot of like Jamaican jerk food as well, but yeah, my favorite was always boquetes. I don't know if it's too crazy, but one of the ones that I had that it seemed to be served in most restaurants was pigtail soup. So, it actually didn't taste too bad. It was just like something that I wasn't used to, is they would like include the entire pigtail in the soup. And so sometimes you would get like part of the curly tail, and it would still have the bone in it, and like sometimes pieces of hair. So not my favorite dish, but not bad. Something they served like around the holidays that was pretty popular was acres de morue, which is basically like fish, not nuggets exactly, but like these fish filled pastries that were really, really good. And that's kind of like something they serve more around the holidays or on special occasions. Oh, something else that was delicious. It's kind of a Haitian dish. Basically, it's plantains that you smash into chips and then deep fry. They're delicious. But yeah, like, so you had different dishes from different cultures, and you also had like, you could go get kebabs and shawarmas and things like that. So just a nice little mix of different things you could get. But yeah, just it was all good food. Something I will say, I didn't have this. Like one of the missionaries I had served with, after they moved into our apartment when we changed areas, our landlord fed them all the time, and she once fed them soup like that was a lot like the pigtail soup, but instead of pigtail, it had the genitalia from a cow in it. So that was fairly interesting. They, like I said, I didn't have that myself, but they described it as a very interesting experience themselves. You can buy all kinds of French pastries, like our first mission president, his favorite pastry was a millefeuille, which means 1,000 sheets. It's like a layered cake-like pastry that's really good. You can always get like pain au chocolat, which is just like fried bread with chocolate in it, which is very good. There are always like tarts and things like that. Like I said, there's more of a local influence with some of them, like more fruit-based food, since they have a lot. Seriously, you can get fruit everywhere, so that's always a great snack. They have, and some of the fruits that were different, like they have guava, they have lots and lots of mangoes, they have star fruit, passion fruit, huge variety, so whatever you want, basically. Guadaloupe is definitely one of the bigger islands in the mission. It's the locals actually call it Karukara, which in Creole means butterfly, because the two have it's really two islands, but it's called one island, but it's really two, and it's separated by like a very small little rivulet. But yeah, like there's Basse Terre and Grande Terre, and they really are like shaped like two wings of a butterfly, which is how the island gets its name. And I served all over the island. I served in, I think, 5, maybe 6 areas on Guadaloupe, and each area is a little different. I did serve in the capital, which is Basse Terre, which is on the southernmost point of the island, and then I served also in Pointe-à-Pitre, which is, I'd say it's the busiest part of the island, the busiest city. And then I served in smaller areas as well. So it's different just depending on where you go. It's beautiful. Like, it's seriously the most beautiful place I've ever been. Very green, very lush, very gorgeous to drive through. As far as like daily life goes, it's very much like France in many ways, just because like they have the same shops and stuff like that. Like the main grocery store is liter price, which is the same as it is in France. They import a lot of their same goods from France, but they also have a lot of like local markets where you can buy fresh fruit and other goods. And that was always one of my favorite parts, just because there's like the weather on the island is fairly, well, I felt like it was fairly constant in the heat and humidity. If you ask the locals, it gets colder in winter. I didn't think so, but it gets colder in winter. As far as like crime and safety goes, like I never had much of a problem with anything like that on my mission. There were some elders that were in the more populated parts of the islands that got robbed quite a few times, which was unfortunate. But for the most part, like since it's controlled by the French government, it's more they have a stronger governmental influence than some of the other islands, like some of the English islands, where they only have like their own government for the island. But you can definitely see that with Guadeloupe and Saint Martin, Martinique, there's a very strong metropolitan influence from France. As far as like what people do, there are like a lot of the members had construction jobs. Some of them had like jobs as nurses, teachers, stuff like that, like stuff we would do here. There are a lot of refugees on the islands, just from different islands, like trying to get a better life. Like the economy on the French islands is better than it is on a lot of the other places. So we had a lot of members that were refugees that would work more like under the radar jobs, like construction jobs or things like that. You also had a lot of members that would own like their own shop, a convenience store or a boulangerie, stuff like that. So I don't know, it's pretty diverse, just depending on where you're at. There's definitely an interesting mix of French culture and Caribbean culture. The French are, they're warm people, but they're kind of closed off when you first get to know them. And the Caribbean culture is kind of the opposite. They're very, very warm up front and a little more standoffish. Well, not standoffish, but a little more private, kind of like we are in the U.S. when you get to know them. So it was a very interesting cultural mix, because you never knew like which side of the culture the person you talked to would be on. So you could talk to someone, they'd be very happy to see you, or you could talk to someone and they'd be very closed off. So I don't know, just that part of it was pretty interesting, I thought.
Living in Guadaloupe was really incredible. It was a great place for me to start my mission. Like I said, the people are so kind. They were very forgiving about my limited French abilities, and they were very receptive to talking about God and Jesus Christ. They loved being able to learn more about them and talking about who they really were. In Guadaloupe, it is a larger island in the mission, and it's actually kind of shaped like a butterfly. There are two halves. One is called Grande Terre, and the other is called Basse Terre. I started on Grande Terre in the area of Abimes, in the Abimes branch. We were on bikes in my first area, and it's a little bit hilly, but not too bad. It is very hot year-round, and in Guadaloupe a lot of times it will rain in the mornings but be sunny in the afternoon, which was nice for us. We avoided most of the rain just by doing our studies in the morning, and then we got the sun in the afternoon. However, it rains year-round, and it's just kind of something you have to deal with when you're on bikes or in a walking area. Guadaloupe is very green. It is beautiful. Guadaloupe has very beautiful beaches and just a great scenery as a general statement. When I later returned to Guadaloupe in the last half of my mission, I served in Basse Terre in Baie-Mau, the branch of Lamontin. In Basse Terre, it is very hilly. There are lots of mountains, and everything is covered in green, in trees and bushes and grass. It's amazing. One of the cool things about Basse Terre is there is a live volcano and called this La Soufrière. And so one of the common P-Day activities is to go and hike La Soufrière. I personally was never able to do it, but I hear that it's quite the experience.